And welcome to the West is the Best show. My name is Andrew Bell. I have a guest here in calling in today with us that I will reveal shortly. The views and opinions expressed in today's show are those of the speakers and not necessarily Gavin McInnes for the Proud Boys. So today on the phone, I have the majestic Jason Van Dyke. Jason, are you with us?
I'm with you.
What is up? I like that 5 o'clock shadow you got going on. It's very complimentary.
I appreciate that. I haven't been able to really shave since Thursday when I left with the boys down to Houston to help our brothers
You
out.
were in
Uh,
Houston. How was
yes,
that?
I was in Houston.
How was that? How was Houston? I saw it like 50 pictures. It looked awesome.
Houston was outstanding. I mean, uh, you hear people talk about this brotherhood. What we saw in Houston is that the brotherhood here, regardless of how Proud Boys got started, the brotherhood is very real. I brought some outstanding gentlemen, Mitchell Lester,
Great guy.
Chase Glenn, Gustavo Perez down to Houston with me. Bennett Chapman, Ash Small, and Nick DiCarlo from the DFW chapter met up with us. Houston couldn't have been better hosts. We worked long hours. We got very little sleep, but we had a great time. We helped a lot of people down there.
That's awesome. I think that I saw a lot of people on the news helping people, but honestly, and I'm not just blowing smoke, I think that you guys probably did the best job that I saw. I think that you guys were out there like literally every single day with boats and trucks passing out free water. You weren't at shelters trying to like hit places that were already oversaturated with people helping out. You were going out into the rural areas. You actually rescued people, right? You rescued people that were drowning or something.
Yes, that is correct. I brought my duck hunting boat out there. Travis Pinkerton from the Alt Knights. I want to give a shout out to him. He was very helpful in helping us get where we needed to be for some of the rescues.
Sure.
The first full day we were there, we had a little bit of a problem in the Beaumont, Port Arthur, Orange area and had to reroute back to Houston, where that evening we helped some people get out of their apartment complexes and their homes, but also some of them get back in if they needed medication or something like that that was necessary to their survival. We were able to do that by boat. The second day, when we ran boats, we were in the Katy area in water that I would have to say was definitely unsafe. It smelled like a sewer, and there were people stuck in apartments that were under probably between 3 and 5 feet of water, according to the depth finder on my boat. That day, it was the first day it was Mitchell Lester and Chase Glenn that were running the boat with me. The second day it was Ash Small in the boat with me. We rescued a lot of people from apartment complexes that were in really nasty water, got them the hell out of there, including one complex that actually had a current going out of it. Our boat got stuck on the concrete at one point, and we got out, and that current was dangerous. Even though it was only a street, it was almost enough to sweep us off our feet. So
Wow.
we had to be careful getting into and out of that complex, but we got a lot of families to safety.
That is amazing. Like I wish I could have joined you.
Yeah,
I'm glad that.
and you know what, Andrew?
Go ahead.
You know what, Andrew? The third day, I mean, was not as sexy as doing the boat rescues. I know everyone likes watching the really high-speed boat rescues and stuff like that. And let's face it, that's cool to watch. It makes for compelling television. But I actually thought we got to help more people on the third day we were there. When we were out in my truck, I was with a variety of people. It was myself, Ash was with us. Rory Reddington from the Houston chapter was with us. Dalton from the Houston chapter was with us. And we were out in neighborhoods that were under boil water warning. So they did not have safe water to drink. And we literally loaded up my F 250 with as much drinking water as we could find and fit in the bed of the truck. We're going through neighborhoods on a bullhorn, telling people, hey, well, we're the Texas Proud Boys. We're here to make America great again, one bottled water at a time. Come get you some free bottled water so you don't dehydrate in this heat. And we were able to give out, I mean, I think we made 3 truckloads there with water. And then we brought some other supplies because people were saying, hey, we need diapers, we need hygiene products, we need bleach. So we took a note of where those people were and we made sure they had what they needed to so that they could get back on their feet.
That's amazing. I think that like so you're what you're saying is everyone should have left, but the people that chose not to leave, you still were going out of your way to help the people that were maybe too stubborn to leave, and then you went and delivered the things that they needed to survive, basically. And
No, no, not. Um, I must have. I misspoke, Andrew. The first 2 days we were getting people out of their complexes that were flooded with water. A lot of the water in Houston has receded and is completely gone. So that third
I
day,
didn't know that.
we were in areas that had absolutely no water. The damage had been done. There were contractors there helping them rebuild their lives. I mean,
Okay,
it was actually hard to get the truck down the street because of how many contractors were out there doing mold remediation, ripping out drywall and stuff like that.
sure,
But because of the damage caused by the hurricane, the water treatment facilities were still down in a lot of those areas. Brother Rory's wife knew some of the neighborhoods that were under boil water warnings, so we went to make sure that all those people had clean water. And obviously, in a disaster, a lot of the stores are closed. They run out of supplies, so we made sure people in need had food, supplies,
sure.
hygiene products, and things like that.
I think that's amazing. I think that very like Antifa's not doing that. Like I don't think that it's unheard. Like why are Nazis air quotes if Proud Boys are Nazis, right? And they hate
Well,
everybody, right? Why are they going out there helping people?
I think that the videos and the pictures you're going to see from our efforts in Houston are going to show the real story. I was made aware of some of what the Antifa people and what their publications said about us. They will be held accountable, I think, but uh, they were probably in mommy and daddy's basement doing whatever while we were out there doing stuff that men do. I don't consider even the part people in Antifa who were born male or whatever to be men. Men were out there working regardless of their political beliefs. There were a lot of other groups out there. We saw Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints out there. We saw there were a lot of people helping out. It obviously wasn't just us, but there were real men doing men shit out there. And Antifa, my guess would be they were home, mommy's basement, playing video games and beating off or whatever.
Well, I'm sure that even if you were able to impact positively one person's life, you all would have went down there. I think there was a story
Oh,
where,
absolutely.
yeah, I agree. I think there was a story where this little kid goes down to the beach and he sees this whole, like the whole beach is covered with starfish and they're all gonna die. And the little kid starts throwing starfish in or whatever. And then the old man comes up and he goes, "What are you doing? Like you're not gonna be able to save them all. You're not gonna be able to make a difference." And the little kid goes, "I made a difference to that one. I made a difference to that one." And I think that's awesome. I think that you guys really went out there, and I think you made an impact. And I bet those people are going to remember it for the rest of their lives. I think it's super super important.
Well, yeah, and I also want to stress, just because I want to give credit to where it was due, the Houston chapter, they were awesome hosts. I mean, they had been working on very little sleep for days before we could get down there. They went out of their way to be accommodating to us. They gave us a place to sleep. They helped make sure we had food. Um, they were running basically a supply distribution point out of a warehouse owned, I believe, by one of their brothers in that chapter. I mean, so they were amazing. It was really, really great for me and the rest of the DFW guys to visit. Just to name a few: Rory, Josh, Brandon, Michael, Chris, and Billy, Robert, some of those other guys, Johnny, all those other guys in the Houston chapter. It actually made me want to go visit more chapters, just see, maybe when Austin or San Antonio were having a meetup there and just maybe go down there with a couple of guys and say what's up and have a couple of beers with them.
Yeah, I think statewide meetups for the Proud Boys is super important. I think it's something that should be coordinated more. I know like multiple people have been like, "Hey, let's all meet up and go here." But I think that if we plan it far in advance and everyone agrees on what we're doing, and we can have like out of the 360 members have at least 150, I think it'd be amazing. But
Yeah, I mean they wanted a river float. They wanted that river float back in August. They got a river float. I wish it was a different kind of one, but they got one.
that's hilarious. So, Jason, you are a man who is very busy. And what keeps you exactly so busy? What do you do for a living?
I'm an attorney.
And how is that? Because from my understanding, most people feel that to be a lawyer you have to be shisty, or you have to be a liar, you have to be evil. And I don't feel that those character traits are indicative of your behavior or character. And I think that you wouldn't be a lawyer if that was the case. So tell us the story. What's up with lawyers?
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of lawyers out there who they take advantage of their clients. They don't give good advice. They do the bare minimum that's required. All they care about at the end of the day is a billable hour. I'm not going to obviously mention any names or anything like
Sure.
that because that would be wrong. And I don't know their situation, but that's not what I do, and that's not who I like working for. I'm with a company right now that's great. It's a title insurance company called Texas Title. Uh, and anyone who's purchased a home, which I hope all Proud Boys who can afford to are able. I hope they're all able to afford purchase homes one day. They're going to learn about title insurance. You need it when you buy a house. It's a great company to work for. They care about their clients, and you can really see they do it. And they care about their employees too. That's very important. I know a lot of people who've gone to law school who make more money than me at some of these downtown law firms, but they work 80 hours a week. If they're married, they never see their wife, they never see their children. That's no way to be a father or a husband. I wouldn't want to work for a company like that.
It's not what it's about.
I mean, pardon?
It's not what it's about, right?
Yeah, that's not what it's about. I like the flexibility. I'm permitted in my current position to be somewhat entrepreneurial with the cases that I accept. I can accept with the permission of my supervisors cases that aren't related to the title company. I can't tell you the specific arrangement out
Right.
on the show, but I'm able to help more people than just people looking for title insurance.
I think that's awesome. I think that, and what's cool is because you have like this kind of top level profession, and we have people that probably are janitors in the Proud Boys, and I think that it kind of like levels us all out where we're all just all about the same thing. It's about alpha male. It's about brotherhood. It's all about the things that actually matter, making men great again. And I think that it's cool that someone that is as successful as you are is able to have the same opinions that us peons as well. I'm sure you wouldn't describe us as that, but
No, no. I want to be very clear. I don't see any brother as a peon. I certainly wouldn't deny anyone their value as a brother or a human being. I mean, frankly, part of the reason I joined Proud Boys is because of the reasons I mentioned. I don't get along with a lot of other lawyers. There's obviously some that I get along with, but there's some who are lawyers who I knew them before they became lawyers. I don't get along with other lawyers in my profession. They're not the type of people that I want to go drink beer with or have lunch with. I mean, the people I
sure.
work with at my office, I do. There's obviously some other lawyers in the community I get along with very well, but I don't like a lot of them. I'd rather hang out with the Proud Boys. It's a lot more fun.
Yeah, we keep it fun. And speaking from your particular point of expertise, it's come to my knowledge that there is bylaws being drafted for the Proud Boys or folk or how they're supposed to interact with each other. Maybe I don't know if you've heard this or not, but maybe you could kind of elaborate or shine light on maybe your opinion or how, if it was implemented, how that would be able to work.
Well,
Should it even be
I'm not
implemented?
going to
That's the question.
speak out of turn on the subject. I can say that I certainly have a great deal of awareness on it, and I listened to what you and Justin had to say about it before, and I have to disagree with Justin. I think it's a good thing for a few reasons that people haven't considered yet, because the way things are right now, someone can go make a first degree video, post it on Twitter or Facebook, and under the rules as they currently exist online, they're considered a proud boy. Well, what happens if you get someone like a Richard Spencer or someone like that who does that and then does something really stupid in the name of
Sure.
our fraternity? There has to be some level of accountability there to say who's a proud boy and who isn't to prevent rogue chapters from being started. And what I'd like to see happen is some type of national document created where local autonomy is maintained to the greatest degree possible while protecting the good name of the fraternity. That's very important. I mean, people who've been on the various pages, the Texas page, on the Maine AIDS page, know that I've been writing a lot of letters lately to newspapers who've slandered us. And unfortunate as it is, I mean, I wish it didn't have to be this. My opinion is there needs to be some sort of national organization that does the minimum necessary to protect us from being slandered or from being co-opted by white nationalists, the alt-white right, people that really have no business being Proud Boys.
So you're saying that um, this would be beneficial. So you're in favor of this article, and I don't know. I'm very strongly hesitant of it. I think you and me have had a private conversation about this prior to this broadcast, but I just feel like why does I don't okay maybe I'm fuzzy on how it would work, but okay, so if there's this ironclad thing that says you can't do this and you can't do that, how does that enable people to do whatever they want?
That maybe I didn't explain myself fully, Andrew.
Maybe I
What I'm
didn't understand.
saying is we need some type of document that describes on a national level who is and isn't a Proud Boy, or at the very least for chapters.
Sure.
Because as it exists right now, there would be nothing in place that would prevent a Richard Spencer or a white nationalist type from starting a chapter, calling it a Proud Boy chapter, recruiting members, and then maybe going and doing something really stupid in the name of the Proud Boys, even though, as Gavin, peace be upon him, eloquently put it, they're wearing our uniform. We both know that the fake news isn't going to believe it when we say, oh, they're not an official chapter. So by having something like that in place, we can say, this is not an official chapter. Here's a list of our official chapters. They're not chartered. They're not recognized by the Proud Boys. These people are not Proud Boys. These are imposters who are doing this to slander our good name, and we're not going to talk, and we're not going to tolerate it.
So okay, so if there's a solution presented, there must be a problem. And what problems do we have that would require this to be in force? And who is to enforce
Well,
it?
I would say the biggest problem we've had recently is Jason Kessler. That's the problem that I've been having to deal with is various fake news articles about saying how Jason Kessler, who was one of the people that organized the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, was a Proud Boy. That he had recently been initiated as a Proud Boy. Um, it, it helps with vetting, making sure that we have people that agree with our ideals in the Proud Boys, while not while maintaining the fact that yeah, we all like to drink beer and have a good time, but I mean, I listened to your show with Justin. You say people want to make it serious. You know, what we did in Houston was serious. I think there's a time and a place for both things. I think we should do what we can to help the community. I think we should do what we can to help our country. And of course, I think there should be a lot of time spent socializing, becoming brothers, and drinking beer and hanging out and having a great time. But it makes it very difficult to, especially, it's going to make it harder to recruit people who are in professions where they could get in some trouble, uh, like the Dell case that you mentioned in the last episode, as a hypothetical. If there's no way for them to say, no, these people aren't Proud Boys, they're imposters. My only concern is protecting the good name and reputation of a fraternity that I love and the names and reputations of my brothers. That's all I'm trying to do.
Right. I think that makes sense. Um, I think that there maybe has been some encroachment on some people that necessarily don't hold our values. I think I've been pretty vocal about. I feel like there's been a decent amount of people that are actually in positions of power, that aren't making decisions best in the best interest of the Proud Boys. So I think that being able to have people that have the best interest of the Proud Boys, but for instance, like when I got involved with Proud Boys a long time ago, or at least what I consider to be a long time ago, there was people that were like, because I dressed nice, must have been an FBI agent, and then no one took me seriously for like a month, right? So, um, where do, why is it beneficial, for instance, that there'd be a database and like I don't understand like I don't know. I think that for it to be more serious, okay, for instance, you touched on how what you did in Houston is serious business, and I agree. But like, I agree that it was a lackadaisical group of gentlemen that went to go do something that was important and serious. It's not a serious group to go and doing serious things, which I think was the divide that I personally have an issue with, where people are like, "Hey, Proud Boys needs to be street activism. We need to go out in the streets and sticks and shields and armor and fight people." It's like, wait, let's pump the brakes on that one. That's not what we're about. And I think that I think some people are trying to make the group into something that it wasn't originally intended to be, and that's my main beef. And if this article helps the group stay centered around the things that it was initiated to be, I think it might be beneficial. But I think that it's going to be like pulling teeth, brother.
And I agree with you. I mean, we've got a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life who are part of the Proud Boys. And I mean, I know you kind of pump me up as being a lawyer on the show, but I value everybody's opinion. I heard on the show Justin probably disagrees. That's fine. I'd love to have a beer with Justin and kind of say, hey, here's just some things I think that could do to help protect the reputation and the good name of the fraternity. I know that it's going to be a long road, but if we can get to something that everyone can live with, maybe not necessarily like every aspect of it, but something that everyone can just live with, I think that would be something good. But it's certainly not something where if it's something where people are going to leave over it, I would say, you know what, let's just scrap it because we don't need to lose brothers over this. It's minor. Uh, it's not that big a deal at the end of the day. If we're going to lose brothers over it, forget it. But if we can come up with something everyone can live with and it's going to improve what we have now, then it's something I think we need to go with.
So we have Justin Dunn here. He, from behind the camera, has been motioning me to come up on and
I
make
just
some
had
comments.
some questions and my name kept being mentioned, and I'm like, I can't say anything, you know?
Yeah. Go ahead, because obviously I
So,
respect your opinion.
right, no, and I'm not inherently disagreeing with what y'all are doing. I just think that maybe you can ease my mind because I'm worried that it's going to create a problem where there isn't necessarily a problem or where there's not that bad of a problem. So let me elaborate a little bit. You being a lawyer, you'd be able to answer this. So we draw up an official document and we do the things you're talking about where, you know, there's officially recognized groups and whatnot. Well, would that then open us up to more than we are opened up to now as far as what happens when an official group goes rogue, or what happens when a group purposely gets their official status just to, you know, fuck us later on? And
I don't think rules are implemented without power. And who's going to be able to enforce all these items?
Let me address Justin's question first, just so I can be very clear. As far as what making a group like official, and what I mean by that, by making it official, is chartering it as a limited liability company or a corporation, is would do a couple things. It would potentially open us up to litigation as a group. At the same time, we're already open to litigation as a group because what can happen is if someone wants to sue the Proud Boys, my concern is that they could say, well, Gavin McInnes is the Proud Boys and go after him personally. I would much rather there be an LLC or a corporation that they have to sue before they can really get to any individual members. The corporation or the LLC would have no assets, so it would be a complete waste of time for it. Whether we like it or not, we're open to being sued right now as individual members, and that's something that I'd like to shield brothers from because I do see it as a problem. I want there to be a way, and I want there to be a way around that. Now, Andrew, if you could, as I was, Justin, what was the second part of your question? If you could repeat that for me, please.
I'm not positive, but I did have a follow-up to your statement that might have still been my second question, which was, are we more vulnerable now, or will we be more vulnerable after forming some sort of corporation or LLC?
I believe it is my opinion as an attorney, and again, full disclaimer here, this is based on the laws of the state of Texas. Uh, it is my opinion that as individuals, we are far more vulnerable now because the various officers of the chapters, if the chapter does something fucked up, the officers could potentially be held personally liable for the actions of that chapter, or in the event of a national type of thing, it is my concern that a litigator, again, he probably wouldn't win, but would try to hold someone like Gavin personally liable for
Okay.
something messed up. I
Well,
want to stop that from happening.
all right. As far as to your point about local chapter heads, people like Andrew said, local guys with power, state guys with power, city guys with power. Don't you think that might have been our first bit of slippery slope when it comes to the legal issue? Like, why did we start doing the president thing, the sergeant at arms thing, all this stuff? Why did it go from a fraternity to now, like a top down hierarchy? In other words, so are we better off continuing to go that direction? Are we better off to, come back a little bit and stop with all this president, vice president, sergeant at arms?
Hang on, let me cut in here. So when I was in the Proud Boys, initially there was no chapter president and all this kind of bullshit. It was always there was captains. So it was regional captains. So you're a captain, you're a captain, you're a captain, you're a captain, and it's all flat. Texas, all of Texas was flat. So there was Robert Coyle. There was Wes LaFerve, my co-host.
Brendan Gaddy, Austin.
Brendan Gaddy, Taylor Fields. All these guys were captains. It was completely flat. There was no top state representation for Texas to Gavin and all the other guys. So it was all the all United States was all captains, from my understanding. So now when we have these chapter heads, now people are pissed off because it's like, whoa, who initiated Robert Coyle to be in charge? It's like, excuse me, he's always been in charge.
I was the only one that said nay on that vote.
To what? Having
to Robert Coyle being president, but it was really a joke more than anything.
He's a
somebody had
gentleman.
to dissent. Damn it!
I think that he's the right guy for the job.
Everybody loves Robert.
And if he isn't one day, we should drag him out by his heels. But the deal is, he's okay.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, absolutely, please.
It's very long-winded.
Basically, I've been in a fraternity before. I'm a Theta Chi. That's a college fraternity. And as far as there being, I became a Proud Boy in May of this year. So I didn't really, obviously, I can't remember what it was like when there was just captains and there weren't chapter officers. I am in favor of individual chapter autonomy, which means
Amen.
If the chapter wants to have these officers, they can. I think they should, because I think sometimes there's a level of organization that's needed to coordinate chapter events and to do vetting. Again, I do think vetting is very important, and it is my opinion that vetting is something that everybody needs to pay a lot more attention to. But I want there to be chapter autonomy. I think Houston should be independent from DFW, should be independent from San Antonio, should be independent from Austin. You do your own thing. When we were in Houston, the Houston chapter was very kind to us and opening our house to us. But you know what? That was their house, and we respected it. And they were in charge down there, and that's fine with that was fine. That was fine with me. I think that having just a gaggle of people together with no one who can help organize could make it just a Facebook group and not a fraternity that does stuff. So I think there needs to be some organization, and I would say I think it should be up to the individual chapters how they want to do that.
Do you think that Facebook is the problem? Do you think it's all the drama, the gackling back and forth between people, having to have their opinion? And
I think Facebook's a huge problem. I mean, I'm an older guy. I'm 37 years old. I'm pretty sure Justin remembers that there was a time before Facebook. I think one of the problems we have on social media is a lack of inhibition. We say things over Facebook to people that we wouldn't say to them in person because they're X number of miles away, and there's certain ways you just shouldn't talk to people as a man.
Sure.
I think that one thing we need to do, at least in Texas, is we need to go through the Texas page. I mean, what do we have? 300 plus members on the
362
Texas page?
last time I checked.
Pardon?
362 last time I checked.
How have we? I wasn't a Proud Boy during the first statewide meetup, Justin. Perhaps you could answer this. I remember in Austin, what did we have? 60, 70 people in Austin
For the second one?
at the second one. But what about the first one? How many did we have at the first one?
I think we're about it was probably somewhere around 25, maybe 30, but I don't even think it was that high.
Well, I mean, so that means how many people are in this Texas Facebook group that have never been to a single meetup,
Most.
who've never been to a statewide meetup, who do nothing but maybe shit post in the Texas group once in a while, or not post at all.
Wait a minute.
I would
Don
like to
Jolly
see.
came to the statewide meetup on this last one.
Oh,
I
I
agree,
love
I
Don
agree.
Jolly.
I agree with you.
I'm not talking about. I love Don Jolly.
I
I'm just talking about. We have 300 some people in there, but do we really have 362 active Texas
No.
Proud Boys? I think that's something we need to take a look at. And
No,
if
but
they've never been to a meeting,
I think okay, so I've been in charge of vetting and recruiting and events for probably what 2-3 months now, maybe 2 months probably is more accurate.
I didn't
yeah,
pay attention.
you've done a great job.
In the first month, recruiting went up literally 382%. I created there was a vetting page was already available to people to do. People were kind of hopping that avenue, but they which I'm sure will. If these bylaws are enacted, there's going to be an ironclad thing, so where it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the deal is, the way I had it is I recruited people to come and help me with vetting. So there was 5 to 7 people that I trusted. That's about 10 people, 10 members per person to help vet. For the size of the group relatively. And so basically it was questions to get into the vetting page. It was public, and then. Or it was private, rather, because anyone couldn't join. And then you had to, DM one of the people in the group and tell them why you wanted to be a Proud Boy, how'd you find out about it, all this kind of stuff to kind of wean people out. I taught people how to, search these people's Facebook to make sure they didn't like anything crazy, because I don't care where on the political spectrum you land, as long as you're not fucking crazy. So we did a pretty good job of that. I think we got a lot of really good people in there. And I think the physical group that shows up to the meetings, at least that I attend in the DFW, has grown exponentially, probably by a third at least. And I don't want to necessarily take all the credit for that. I have a lot of great people helping out. Rory Reddington and Nick Smith are doing an incredible job, as well as everybody else in there, Taylor Fields and Don Jolly and all those guys. And I think that it's been beneficial, and I think that recruiting can be tightened up to the point where there's less crazy people coming in, but now that all the Charlottesville stuff, that we have a lot of negative attention and stuff. And
that makes me wonder, why should we keep going in that direction? Because all the things you just mentioned, I don't see how that's benefited by any form of hierarchy with the recruiting and
the vetting page.
Vetting. Yeah, why is
no, I agree with you, Justin. Justin, I'm agreeing with you as far as I'm not. I don't think there should be any sort of hierarchy for vetting. I'm all for complete local control. When it comes to vetting, but at the same time, I think there does need to be some kind of accountability to make sure, for instance, that we don't get I'm just going to give you a hypothetical situation. Yeah. Richard Spencer's no friend of the Proud Boys. He's denounced us on a number of occasions. I'm going to use him as an example because he's an easy target. Let's say Richard Spencer says, I'm going to start a Proud Boy chapter, and throws on a Fred Perry, gets a bunch of his white Nash friends, gets them Fred Perrys. They start showing up and saying crazy shit in the name of the Proud Boys. At least the only thing a national hierarchy would help with that is we could say, excuse me.
Hey,
are we frozen?
Yeah, Van Dyke's frozen. Oh, he's back.
Am I back?
Yep,
Hey,
you're
Am
back.
I back?
Go ahead.
Am I back, guys?
Yes, sir.
Something
you're
happened.
back.
I was going to say, at least it allows a national organization to say, hey, this was never an officially chartered chapter. They're a road chapter. They don't represent us. and there's some credibility there. It's very easy to disavow somebody after they've done something fucked up. But
Correct.
if you've got something in place, you can say they were never a Proud Boy. What the hell are you talking about? You guys are out of your mind.
Okay, so I have a question. So you're
Yeah.
obviously you're pro bylaw, right?
Yes.
Okay. Intelligent people, from my point of view, understand that everything has pros and cons. So, do you
Yes.
perceive any cons out of bylaws,
Absolutely.
such as?
I absolutely perceive cons of the bylaws. One, the number one con of the bylaws is that it is the type of thing where if the wrong people got put into positions at the national level, just like a government, uh, it could lead to bad things uh, for the Proud Boys generally. That's obviously the biggest con. I mean, we know this of governments. I see as a, and I also see as a potential con there being influence from states where it doesn't need to be. If I had my druthers, I mean, this is my opinion, is the only thing that any type of national organization would be allowed to do was one, charter new chapters so we know what's a regular chapter. Two, have statewide have nationwide meetups like Westfest. Maybe collect some money so that we can have Westfest that's organized. And I mean, not that no, I mean I can't go to Westfest, but make it better every single year. And three, collect money to do things that wouldn't necessarily be considered a charitable contribution under federal tax law, but which we as Proud Boys would be considered as charitable contributions. Have a small budget so that when the Halifax Five need a legal defense, we can help provide that. When someone like Tommy needs a legal defense, we can
Hands aren't
do
connected.
something like that. That's where a national structure comes into play. Everything else, I say, let the local chapters deal with it. But that would be that I think should be the maximum amount of control that a national organization should have. It chartering of chapters protects the good name of the fraternity. Collecting maybe a small amount of dues or donations would help people like Devin and Tommy and the Halifax Five, and then maybe having some extra money left over so we can say, hey, we're going to rent out, I don't know, the Hofbräu House in Las Vegas so we can have a huge dinner party as part of Westfest every year. I don't think, as long as it's kept very small, I think it's a good thing. If it got too big and it started exercising control over the chapters in a way that there was no longer any real local autonomy, I think that would be a problem.
Okay, is there a way to write that into the bylaws that would help prevent that from happening?
Um, well, you would obviously say the power. I mean, if I was doing it, I would use the Constitution of the United States as my guide, the 10th Amendment. All powers not expressly delegated to the national chapter are reserved to the local chapters.
Look what that's gotten us. Am I right?
Well, and obvious and point taken. You're absolutely right, but I think it's obviously a lot easier to control in the context of a fraternal organization than it is in a nationwide government. I mean, I'm a student of the law. There was a time when the courts in this country respected the 10th Amendment and agreed that it meant exactly what it says. I think that since the Franklin D. Roosevelt administration, our country's gotten away from that, and it's a hell of a shame. And that's, like you said, that's the con of having a national organization. Just like any government, there's always potential for it to grow out of control, and it's kind of hard to put genie back into the fucking bottle.
Right. Um, if you could put a percentage on how far you are into writing this, not you, but whoever is, you know what I mean. About how far along is it? And that question is important for you to answer because I had a follow up question to that, depending on what your percentage is.
Without confirming or denying who's been working on a draft of this particular document and distributing it to other Proud Boys for potential review, I can say with a reasonable degree of certainty that if there was an emergency that required this document to be filed with the appropriate state authorities as soon as possible, and I was given the go-ahead from Gavin to do so, that it could be done in 24 hours or less.
That's impressive. Okay, so that said, I want to ask a dues question, and don't worry, it's not really based on how much. I think it would probably be reasonable. But how would that be controlled? Because people are going to have a question about that. And I think the last way it was to be handled was that Gavin said, "Send me the money and I'll deal with it." Well, obviously, that probably wouldn't happen when it comes to dues. So, what do y'all have, if anything, in mind for a basic account?
Let me be very.
Would there be local chapter dues, and then if we had to for a big enough problem, could those be pooled? With all the chapters that exist everywhere. What's the layout for that? Because I'm interested in it, and I'm actually not against it. I think it could be very beneficial.
I think dues can be very powerful. I'm not for or against. I think that as long as we had the right person heading it up, I think it could be an incredible tool.
And you're invested in it then a little bit.
Sure, skin in the game.
Okay, may I answer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There would obviously have to be a treasurer for any type of national organization, and there would have to be a bank account established with a separate federal employee ID number, which is basically a social security number for businesses. When I help someone start their own business, that's one of the first things I help them get, so that it's in a separate bank account. There would have to be rules established as far as accountability and transparency as to what's happening with the funds in that bank account, so that we could make sure that people from a national chapter aren't using that as their personal beer fund. I personally trust Gavin. I don't think someone like him would ever do something like that, but there might be a day where he doesn't want to do this anymore. And so obviously there would have to be someone put in that position who is very trustworthy, and there'd have to be transparency to where all that money goes. As far as how dues are collected, that's a very interesting question, because one thing that I think people are concerned with right now is there being any sort of master list of Proud Boys existing anywhere. I'm not really all about that, because I think I think that could be a bad thing. But if dues are going to be imposed based on the number of Proud Boys, we do have to make sure that everyone's paying their fair share. So if I were in charge of the world, which I'm not, I would say, you know what? The national chapter doesn't even have the right to tax, or, as I would put it, any individual Proud Boy. What they can do is they can say, all right, they make the chapters submit how many members they have, I guess with masking the names or something like that. Then they would assess the chapter itself, at which point the chapter could collect those dues from its members, plus any dues that maybe the individual chapter, if its members vote for it, again, chapter autonomy. If the chapter wants to say, hey, we as a chapter want to collect dues in addition to what National is doing, I think they should have the power to do that. And then those get remitted by the chapter to the national organization in the form of a rechartering fee. That's how it works in college fraternities, and I think it's an effective means of doing it, because you see the flow of the money. There's more ability to see where money is going that way.
I think transparency is super important. I think dues.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
I think it's paramount, especially and nothing the Proud Boys does is cloak and dagger at all. We're pretty transparent among ourselves, but we have to, as a men's organization, we have to be very cloak and dagger about the activities in which we do, because the whole thing is based on, secrethood and brotherhood and all this kind of good, beneficial things. So
I'm not saying that dues should be used for anything that we wouldn't want the public to know about.
No, there's no unsavory behavior.
Obviously, we want to help people like Devin, like Tommy, like the Halifax Five, and this isn't something that this is a pot that would hopefully build over time, because obviously we hope for the best of all of our brothers, and we don't want to see anything bad happen to them. And you know what? And then if at some point the pot got really big where the national chapter said, hey, we've got this money sitting dormant,
Yeah, I'll
They could call a vote through the chapters and say, hey,
I vote
let's
for me.
figure out an amount and a worthy charity like St. Jude Children's Hospital or something like that that we as the Proud Boys are going to make a donation to for the good of our country and our community.
So in Texas, via all of our contributions here on camera and those people that are watching as well, that are on the Proud Boys, obviously, this isn't just a Proud Boy show. We've done multiple charities. We've done St. Jude's, like you said. We've done the Central Texas Food Bank. The CEO wrote us a letter, actually. It was
What?
I'm aware.
It was amazing.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I donated too.
I think the letter got misplaced, and that might have been my fault.
Hmm.
But
was there a letter?
we also just sent over $2,000 to a OG Proud Boy who preferred to be anonymous.
Not mention.
Because he's dying in a Houston hospital of liver failure. And I think that's the whole point. And I think dues is a really important, powerful feature where we're able to, weaponize or utilize people's small funds together, kind of like a mutual fund, and disseminate powerful amounts of information and money and all these kinds of things to do real good, positive change.
Well, that's what a fraternity is, Andrew and Justin. The fraternity, I mean, as they existed in college, one of the things that when you're in college, people accuse you of if you're in a fraternity is, oh, you're paying for your friends. I mean, everyone who's been to college and been in a fraternity in college has heard that, and you're not paying for your friends. What you're doing is you are grouping your money together to do things that you as an individual would not be able to do yourself. That's the purpose of having dues in a fraternity, and it really begins and it ends there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying that there's pros and cons with everything. I hate to be the libertarian guy that says there's good and bad and everything, but I don't know. I think that you make a strong case, and I think that if it's implemented, there will be some cons and there will be some pros. And I think with everything, with so many people, with everyone having a voice, there's going to be people that are pissed off. There's going to be people that are happy. And if it works out, I hope that it's beneficial more than non-beneficial.
You've answered a lot of my questions. I don't have an opinion on it either way yet. I'm very curious to see where it goes, what comes out about it.
Yeah, and like I said, it's obviously a work in progress. I mean, there's a lot of people. It's one of those things. If Gavin says no, the answer is no, as far as I'm concerned. He started this up, but if he says no, let's try to let's find something that at the very least everyone can live with. I think that given the roots of the Proud Boys, you're going to be surprised with how much autonomy chapters are going to retain and how little power any type of national organization is going to have.
So you obviously wouldn't want to be pushing this and backing this kind of stuff if you didn't think it would empower the group to do something that's better than what we're already doing. So, and you've already noticed...
It's about protecting the group and helping keep the group true to its original purpose and advance in that original purpose.
You said something really important earlier, and it was about participation. And at the last DFW meetup for the Proud Boys had, which I'm not able to disclose a lot of the things that go on, but Mitchell Lester had commented on how, like we talked about, 362 members, where's everybody at? Not everyone's pitching in money for the things that we need to be pitching in money for. Not everyone's showing up physically. Not everyone's even on the Facebook, commenting or liking. So where are those people? I think that bylaws might be able to force participation. I think that I would rather have a group of 50 solid people than 360 people just to have a number. But I want to have all 360 people solid. Jason, we have about 10 minutes left with you. Go ahead.
Okay. I think right now there is nothing that stops any local chapter from having its own bylaws if it wants them. And in fact, it is my opinion that all local chapters should have their own bylaws so that when people become a Proud Boy and join a chapter, they know what we stand for and what's expected of them. And I think that if a local chapter wants to say there is some type of minimum participation requirement outside of Facebook, I think they should have the power to do that as a local chapter, consistent, of course, with the rules of common sense. Obviously, if we've got a brother that's on deployment somewhere in the military serving our country or as some other circumstance and has to be absent for a while, obviously, I think we have to be mindful of that. But
Of course.
there's no reason someone should post a first degree video, answer the vetting questions, get onto the Texas page, never show up to anything, rarely, if ever, post on the Texas page, because when someone does that, I start to get concerned whether that person's a spy and really why they're there, why they took the time to become part of a very private Facebook group, and then they don't want to do anything with it. That kind of bothers me.
That's an incredible point that I hadn't thought about before.
I've I do criminal defense. I've cross-examined informants before, and right now we've got people who are very idle in the Texas page. Nobody knows who they are. Um, they've I don't know if anyone's ever seen these people in person, and perhaps uh, that's something that the chapter heads and the admins need to talk about. Maybe having a purge of people who've been around for X number of months. No one's ever seen them before. They don't post. They're just lurking in a group that's supposed to be secret.
Or they're just members, and they don't even remember that they're members, and they haven't been there in forever. And if that's the case too, I don't think they're gonna miss being gone either. Purge away. I don't give a shit.
I'm an admin in Proud Boys Texas and in charge of vetting. I am 100% for a purge. That's the first thing I did when I became in charge of vetting. I literally kicked out like 300 people out of the vetting page.
Well, I think there needs to be something done with the Texas page for sure, and obviously that's at the sound discretion of the chapter presidents and the admins how they want to do that, and what kind of criteria they want to set. It's really up to them. I don't have a dog in that fight. I just think it's something that could be helpful so we know how many Proud Boys we actually have in Texas, and so we keep the group private. This is a private party. People who don't want to be in this party and who don't share our values aren't invited.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, it sounds good.
All right, Mr. Van Dyke, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. You've shined light on things. I'm now smarter because of your pontification on these important topics.
Thank you, Andrew and Justin. I like you both more than a friend.
Yes, sir.
I love you to death, motherfucker. See you later. So that was J.L. Van Dyke, the most beautiful person that I know. He has the heart of gold. He works super hard. He's a lawyer. He's a proud boy. I love to call him a friend. And I'm glad he was able to shine some light on some issues that we had some questions about, and I hope that it answered questions for you guys too. Are we good? We're good?
There it is. We had a little craziness at the end. All right, we're done. Hopefully somebody watches this, and they'll have the jump on,
the bylaws
and purging and shit. Purge away. Bye.